Welcome to day 23 in our study of the book of Ecclesiastes. The title for today's lesson is Enjoy Life with the Wife Whom You Love. Our verses will come from Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verses 7 through 10. Go, eat your bread with joy, drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Let your garments be always white. Let not oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love, all the days of your vain life that he has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life, and in your toil at which you toil under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol, to which you are going. Okay. You've finished your meal at the Chinese restaurant. Buffet style, of course. Now comes the moment you've been waiting for. No, not the bill. Even better, the fortune cookie. What is your future? It might read, nothing is so much to be feared as fear. Or maybe it says, all things are difficult before they are easy. Or even this one, the real kindness comes from within you. Yes, it all makes sense now. You fold it neatly and put it in your pocket and proceed to forget all about it until it is laundry time. And then it becomes part of next week's garbage. However, every time I eat at a Chinese restaurant, again, buffet style of course, I get the same fortune. Help, I'm a prisoner in a fortune cookie factory. Maybe you'll get the one that says, the fortune you seek is in another cookie. Or maybe you're about to become $10.95 poor, $8.95 if you had the buffet. Or maybe one that simply said, run! Or finally, ignore previous cookie. Funny how we seem to be looking for our good fortune in so many places, except where life really is. The gambler looks for his numbers to come up. Ah, yes, I'm on 12th Street and I stop to let a family of ducks go across. Then I'm on Highway 8 and a deer runs across and I miss it. Those must be my lucky numbers for today. I'll put my money on number 12 in the 8th race. Maddening! A young boy twists the stem for his apple, moving up the alphabet with each twist until it breaks off on the letter G. He is assured that his true love's name will begin with that letter. Insufferable! Another finds a penny on the ground and concludes it is lucky and makes up her mind that it must be her lucky day. Outrageous! Is that what this life has been reduced to? Whims and fancies and lucky charms? Our verses today are really a continuation of the previous passages from verses 1 to 6. I suppose that could be said of the entirety of the book of Ecclesiastes to one extent or another. All of Solomon's thoughts are, as it were, a stream of consciousness about what he has seen and what he has been saying all along. What I have seen under the sun. Remember what he means when he says under the sun is that which is done here in this life. And don't lose sight of that. It's important to know. Remember also the context of what Solomon says, lest we go off on tangents and extremes. A good example of this is the admonition in verse 7 to drink your wine with a merry heart. Now, Solomon is not advocating a lifestyle of drinking booze. He's warned about that, not only here in Ecclesiastes chapter 2 and verse 3, but also in Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 1, and chapter 31 and verses 4 through 5. Look it up and you'll see. But glance back now to verse 1 of this chapter to understand who Solomon is directing this towards. We read, but all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know. Both are before him. Yes, there it is. He's writing to the righteous and the wise. Now, what Solomon says in verse 7 makes perfect sense. Go, eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Solomon is now headed for the finish line, as they say. Tempered with the idea of pleasing God is the idea that this life is meant to be enjoyed. For so he emulates this when he says in verse 8 of chapter 9, "Let your garments be always white. Let not oil be lacking from your head." Consider what Joab said to the wise woman of Tekoa. In 2 Samuel chapter 14 and verse 2 we read, "And Joab sent to Tekoa and brought from there a wise woman, and said to her, Pretend to be a mourner, and put on mourning garments. Do not anoint yourself with oil, but behave like a woman who has been mourning many days for the dead." Solomon's saying, don't go about as a mourner. Put on a festive color of white and anoint yourself with the gladness of oil. We might recall what Jesus said of this as well in Matthew chapter 6, verses 16 through 18 in his Sermon on the Mount. "And when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you." Many have been troubled by verse 9, but only because it is Solomon who spoke it. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love, all the days of your vain life that he has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life and in your toil at which you toil under the sun. In light of what was written about him in 1 Kings chapter 11, that has some validity. For we read, "He had 700 wives who were princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father." Still, we must see this in the light of an older and wiser Solomon, who is reflecting back on his life of vanity and wanton pleasure, and now sees the error of his ways. He addresses us earlier in the book when he says in chapter 2 and verses 8 through 10, "I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the sons of man. So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me, and whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil." Such are the desires of youth, which the Apostle Paul warns Timothy of in 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 22. "So flee youthful passions and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart." It is interesting that Paul gives instructions as to the qualifications of an elder or shepherd of the flock of the New Testament, and gives these commands concerning youth and marriage. In 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 2, he writes, "Therefore an overseer must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach." And further he adds in verse 6 of that passage, "He must not be a recent convert, or he may become puffed up with conceit and fall into the condemnation of the devil." Though Solomon didn't follow his own advice, it is nonetheless prudent and wise to remember what he often gave as sage advice when it came to marriage. For we read in Proverbs chapter 5, verses 15 through 20, "Drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. Should your springs be scattered abroad, streams of water in the streets? Let them be for yourself alone, and not for strangers with you. Let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer, a graceful doe. Let her breasts fill you at all times with delight. Be intoxicated always in her love. Why should you be intoxicated, my son, with a forbidden woman, and embrace the bosom of an adulteress?" Have you given all your might toward your marriage? And Lord willing, let's meet here again tomorrow for another lesson in a study in the book of Ecclesiastes.